My name is Mike Hilgers. I represent District 21, which is in Northwest Lincoln and Lancaster County. I'm an attorney and started my own business almost 10 years ago in my basement, and I've grown that actually to almost 40 employees around the country, and very proud that our headquarters are here in Lincoln, and we've recruited families to Lincoln, and we're named one of the fastest growing companies in the country. I say all that because a lot of my personal background is really geared towards finding win-win-win opportunities and taking advantage of the things that we see in the state. And the 4 years that I've spent in the legislature, I think that's exactly what we have done. I think we saw it in part with LB 1107. I think you've seen it with some of my priority bills, including the bill to expedite the Beltway here in Lincoln, which will be transformative. We've had bills to eliminate red tape and save money in the transportation space, expand healthcare, those types of things. I think a lot of times our politics are focused on narrow bands of partisan turf, and taking a broader vision towards opportunity and prosperity, building off of our combined strengths is the right approach. That's what we've done the last 4 years. And that's why I'm running for re-election. I think in this era of uncertainty, there's really two paths we could go down. There's a path of fear and a path of narrow-mindedness where we try to hunker down and just try to absorb all the body blows and hope to be not too far worse off than we are today. I think that's one approach. I think there's another approach, and I think that was embedded in the presentation that the chamber just had, which is an approach of abundance and prosperity, and one that says no matter what this uncertain time might bring us, there will be opportunities for us to grow our state, bring people back home, and actually have more opportunity going forward. And so I think that's the Nebraska way. I think that's the way we've tried to approach in the legislature the last 4 years. And I know everyone on this call who's listening, that's the way that they approach their own businesses, because that's what you have to do in the business world. So I would say this, over the next 2 years in particular, there's a tremendous opportunity with the right energy, focus, and teamwork, both from the public side, the policy professionals, and business leaders to really transform the state and set a foundation for the next 5 or 10 years. And I'm excited to play a role now, and I hope to be reelected and continue to play a role the next couple of years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, and thanks for all you do. In District 23, candidate for legislature in District 23, which is Butler, Colfax, and Saunders County, is Helen Rakes. Helen is a professor of early childhood education at the university. And Helen, if we can put you on.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciated today's presentations and found them extremely compatible to the ways that I've been thinking about the work ahead. I am Helen Rakes. I'm a retiring professor of education from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. My late husband, was State Senator Ron Rakes. We were thought partners, and when he died very young, I told him I'd finish our work. So I'm stepping up for service if that is the wish of the voters of District 23. I have three main priorities and one that kind of overarches them all. The overarching priority is always children. I'm very focused on protecting the rights and well-being of children from conception to adolescence. And this has been my life work. So it'll always be a concern. When you talked about childcare, it definitely fits in there. Throughout the campaign, I've had the excitement of being able to think a lot about Blueprint Nebraska and about our future. So as Jim knows, I linked to and have been pushing Blueprint and visionary thinking wherever we go. My three main emphases map very well onto Blueprint. Property tax and tax reform would be an emphasis for me, keeping our public schools strong and appropriately financed, and helping small communities and all communities in Nebraska to think about themselves as thriving communities. So what does this look like? I was honored to be the keynote speaker at the Nebraska Thriving Communities Conference in Kearney in 2019. There were over 90 communities there, and that really helped me to connect my thinking about thriving children and thriving families to the ecology of communities and our state. So how do we help our communities not just survive, but thrive? I would introduce an initiative that really complements Blueprint Nebraska by having some ground up requests from communities for what would they like to do to go to the next level? What do they need? All the things we've talked about: housing, childcare, broadband in our rural communities, healthcare, business expansions. think about bringing that together with other opportunities that already exist in Nebraska. So again, I think it's really compatible with Blueprint Nebraska and with the aims of the chamber. So I've been very pleased to be involved in this session today. Thank you so much.
Well, Helen, thank you very much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. And also from District 23 is Senator Bruce Bosselman, the current senator. The senator is retired from the Air Force. He farms and he serves on the Natural Resources, Transportation, Telecommunications Committee. So if we could bring Senator Bosselman on. Will take us just a minute to make the switch.
Hello?
Senator.
Yes, hi. Good morning.
Good to see you. You're on. You have the floor.
Thank you, Brian, and the State Chamber. In the last 4 years, I'm seeking re-election for a second term. My priorities have been straightforward, and it's to preserve and to build upon a strong rural Nebraska. We need to expand our opportunities for farm and rural families through further property tax relief and focus on agricultural economic growth. To grow our rural economies, we need access to affordable broadband expansion, which enables small business growth and job creation. Additionally, I'll continue to work to defend innocent life, protect the Second Amendment, oppose tax increases, support our veterans, and eliminate wasteful spending. As you mentioned in my first term, LB 1107, the property tax relief has been a #1 priority. The State Chamber was critical in helping to achieve property tax relief this year. LB 1107, which provides substantial property tax relief to Nebraska. The bill not only delivers significant property tax relief to Nebraskans, but also reforms, as you've mentioned, to business incentives and puts Nebraska in the running for a $1 billion federal investment in the University of Nebraska Medical Center. The bill delivers $650 million in annual property tax relief in 2 forms. One, it sets a minimum level of funding of $275 million for property tax credit relief fund. And second, the tax relief bill creates a new refundable income tax credit based on our property taxes paid to our schools. Once the tax credit is phased in, as you know, it's a $375 million in property tax relief. With that, the relief comes as a credit, is delivered to you when you file your state income tax return. In Saunders County, the total tax credit received by property owners would be equal to $2 million for tax year 2020 and $5.5 million in tax year 2025. The credit for agricultural lands will amount to about $1 million in 2020 and grow to $2.7 million in tax year 2027. There's a couple items I want to talk about, other bills that I've worked on. The flood relief bill, flood recovery bill is one that I brought before the state legislature because we experience widespread flooding, the worst in our history. And one of my top priorities have been working to ensure the state's prepared for flooding, future flooding events, and LB 1201 does exactly that. The planning will help better protect our communities from future natural disasters. And we talked about rural healthcare just a minute ago with SCC. And my bill 1002 is allowing EMS to restock medications used during transport of a person at a hospital pharmacy. It also creates, and this is critical here, 2 new EMS classifications, the critical care paramedic and the community paramedicine. And we also work with stakeholders to help develop this legislation to modernize EMS regulations that will greatly improve patient care in communities across the state. These are things that SCC talked about as far as improving, growing Nebraska, as far as rural health initiatives. And I thank you for this time and the opportunity. I look forward to serve the state of Nebraska and legislative District 23 in the future. Thank you.
Brian, you're muted.
Zoom freeze again. Just one quick note. I want to thank Senator Adam Moorfeld and Senator Patty Pansing Brooks this morning for joining us. Unfortunately, there's a legislative hearing, so I think they're going to drop off and have to go to that. But thank you very much for your service and also for being with us this morning. So let me move to District 25, which is Senator Suzanne Geist. And Senator Geist is a small business owner in Lincoln, is on the Natural Resources, Transportation, Telecommunications Committee. So Senator, I'm going to turn it over to you. Good morning, Senator. I think you're muted, Senator.
There we go.
Good.
Now, is that better?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for asking us to be a part of your program today. I always look forward to this every year. So thank you for continuing it, even though we are all at a distance from each other. I'd also appreciate hearing what's happening in the education and planning and action arenas, and then collaborating with us as legislators. It's so good to hear what a long-term vision for our state that seems to collaborate with some of the things that we're looking at as a legislature. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Suzanne Geist. I represent District 25, which is the east side of Lincoln and Lancaster County. It includes the towns of Walton and Waverly, as well as Southeast Lincoln. I am in the middle of a re-election campaign, and the things that I am focusing on for my campaign are supporting small business. That would also then merge into larger businesses. But right now in my district, a big thing that I'm seeing is how the pandemic and the shutdown and then gradually opening DHMs have really put stress on small businesses. So as we go into the next session, I am looking at doing some legislation to help support small businesses in my district. I'm also very interested in mental health and corrections, which are two areas of our state through legislation. I think that we can really move the ball down the court. This past session, I did introduce a bill that began a pilot program that begins mental health courts. So we can begin to pull some of those who have chronic mental health issues out of the correctional system and help get them transitioned into the community and actually stable, and then becoming an active and contributing citizen. Those are some of the things that are important to me. I look forward to serving again for 4 more years. And I thank everyone for being here today and helping, 1, to cast a vision for us, but 2, then supporting us. So thank you very much.
You're muted, Brian.
I will get this at some point here. Thank you, Senator Geist. And next, from District 29, I take it back, from District 27. I got going too fast. From District 27, Senator Anna Wishart, who is Director of Partnerships for Beyond School Bills and serves on the Appropriations Committee, which I can tell you, now having spent 2 years in Lincoln, I have a much greater appreciation for the work the Appropriations Committee does and how hard it is. So Senator, let's see if we can get you unmuted and you can have the floor.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brian. And thank you so much for hosting this and being nimble to do it in a safe way. I, like Senator Geist, always look forward to this fall forum. So my name's Anna Wishart. I represent District 27 here in West Lincoln, and it's actually a district I was born and raised in. And I have served for 4 years. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, as Brian mentioned, and so a significant portion of my time and energy has been spent helping manage us through some significant revenue shortfalls. And I feel confident that with myself and the leadership of Chairman John Stinner, that we will be prepared moving forward to ensure that our state is moving forward with, fiscal restraint and fiscally responsible, but also that we're able to fund the important programs that support people, especially our most vulnerable community members. My main goal in the next 4 years is helping us figure out how we're going to manage a challenge that's coming upon us in about 10 years. And that is the population trajectory of Nebraska. By 2030, the statistic that we're looking at is we will have more people 65 and older in our state, they've 18 and younger. So if you think about that, we will have more people entering into retirement and needing supports to age gracefully if they outlive what they've saved for retirement. Then we will have young people entering into our workforce and having families, likely starting careers, and also being able to work and support the necessary programs that keep our state running. And in some rural communities of our state, they're already there population-wise. And we see the fallout that occurs from that, where we see issues with nursing home bankruptcies, for example, lack of ability to support seniors aging gracefully, because there isn't enough workforce and a vibrant, growing economy to be able to support that. And so I'm looking statewide and I want to hit the ground running in 2021. I agree with you, Brian. I think that a lot of people coming out of this global pandemic are going to be looking at where they really want to live, where are places where housing is more affordable, where you have a backyard, where K through 12 education has been able to manage well through this pandemic. Where are those places? In Nebraska, we are positioned to be a place where people will look and want to come. And so what do we do in 2021 to market ourselves for that? One, we continue to have incredibly strong K through 12 education. I talked to an insurance agent the other day who has people coming from California insurance industry to come and live in Nebraska because they can have an affordable house, and also because their kids can go to a public school that is the equivalent in terms of quality of a private education that would cost them a college level salary. So two, we need to support our post-secondary educational institutes, make sure they're quality, but also that they're affordable, because those are the anchors that keep a lot of people here. That's where people come and they meet their friends, they start interning in jobs, they meet their significant others. So that's really important. Three, if we want to attract and retain young people, we have got to market ourselves as a state that is inclusive. And the first thing we should do in 2021 is pass Senator Pansing Brooks and Senator Moorfeld's LGBTQ fairness bill. That's a no-brainer to me. If we did that, that would show a lot of people in the country that we as a state, we support everyone having a good working job. So those are the things that I'm really interested in working on. Brian, you mentioned sort of actually, I think it was Jim mentioned in entrepreneurial zones and how we kind of become a space that has a really strong ecosystem for small business growth. I'm very interested in that as well. So would love to reach out and talk with you on that. Thank you.
Senator, thank you. We do enjoy working with you. And as we think about this core issue of attracting and retaining 18 to 34-year-olds, I'm glad we have people like you in our state on that subject. I think candidly, we have to put me in the hopefully aging gracefully category at this point. And so I was glad for that. I'll try to do my best. So thank you for everything you do. From District 29, candidate for legislature, and this is Lincoln, is Jacob Campbell. Jacob's a former legislative staffer, and he currently runs a real estate development business. And Jacob, we will get you unmuted here, and would love to hear from you about your District 29 race. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, and thank you to all the support staff who put an event like this on. I'm very appreciative to be here and excited to get to November 3rd and then November 4th as we move forward to this election. So as Brian said, I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. Military veteran, my wife's a military veteran, went to school at the university, worked in the legislature for a little while, and then now own a business myself. But part of my work at the university was to recruit students to come to the university. So that was both within the state and outside of the state. And part of that was what's going to get them here and then what's going to keep them here. So I think a lot of this information is really topical. And I'm very few things get me as excited about talking about economic development. So some of the things that I heard that we need to fund entrepreneurship and that there's no single solution. So I think that's really important, that when we look at how are we going to attract and maintain the 18 to 34-year-olds. And as an 18 to 34-year-old, I'm very looking forward to doing that. But how do we attract and maintain 18 to 34-year-olds and grow the state? And I think that idea that there's no one single solution is something we have to always maintain and keep in perspective. So when I think about how to do that, I think one of the biggest barriers for young people starting a job, so we talked about funding entrepreneurship, is how are they going to pay for healthcare? That's a major issue. How am I going to pay for healthcare if I want to bet on myself and go out and start my own business? Gig workers who don't necessarily have healthcare that's attached to a job, but are moving from this contract to that contract. We have to figure out ways to support them, and healthcare is a huge part of that, along with the childcare supports, which I heard that mentioned quite a bit as well. A few of the other things, so designing a tax code that works for economic activity. Gosh, that's been kind of number one as far as my priorities this entire campaign. Being salespeople for the state. So Tony Goins has been a pretty good job of doing that at the Department of Economic Development. We have to maintain that. And part of that is being willing to capitalize on our opportunities. So throughout this whole presentation, there are a lot of opportunities that are present in the state of Nebraska now as corporations and businesses and the eastern part of the country and western part of the country look to see how are they going to cut costs and how are they going to maintain their businesses. Well, there's a lot of real estate in Nebraska. There's low cost of living. We're pretty awesome people. And so we have to tell that story. And so just anecdotally, working on a development here in Lincoln, there are a lot of people coming from California and from Texas and from the eastern part of the country to Nebraska. And so we have to figure out how to support them and tell them to tell their friends and their family to do the same. So very thankful for this opportunity. Appreciate it, Brian. And again, appreciate the help from the support staff, and excited to get to November 3rd.
Jacob, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for running. Now we started with open races. I'm gonna move through the districts again with incumbents that are with us this morning. And in District 2, Senator Rob Clements, who represents Cass, Otoe, and Sarpy counties. Senator Clements is on the Appropriations Committee, and I try not to show any bias in this segment every year, but in this one I do have a bias. So I'm an accountant and tax accountant by trade. And so I love the numbers and I love tax returns. What many people don't know about Senator Clements is he's my expert in the legislature on such matters. And so he always knows what the numbers are. So Senator, it's good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Yeah, I'm the numbers guy. Numbers are our friends, as I always told my children. Listening to Senator Smith, I'm interested to hear what the tax structure changes are that you're proposing, and that's an important thing to me. Property tax relief. As a small town banker, I live in Elmwood. I represent Cass County and southern Sarpy and a little bit of Nebraska City. And we're an ag bank here. We are very much connected to the farming community, and property taxes have been a strain on the farmers. So I was really pleased that we got LB 1107 this year as a good start to do some property tax relief. I'm also on the Appropriations Committee, have been for 4 sessions. And state budget control is important to me. We need to control our budget before we can really allow for tax relief, so that we don't have spending of the government level out of control. That gives us some leeway to be able to change some tax policy. The Appropriations Committee will be looking at the budget, a 2-year budget starting in January, and that will hopefully won't be a struggle. It's been a question whether the COVID shutdowns are going to hurt our budget. I just received an email this week from the Department of Revenue, and I'll just read from it. in August, the revenues were 67 million above forecast. In September, 16 million above forecast. So we have $83 million above our forecast, which really gives us some buffer if we do have some downturn in revenue coming up shortly. And so I've been really pleased. Nebraska, unemployment was more favorable than anybody else in the country. Our employment decrease wasn't as much, and our rebound has been better. So since March, and the shutdowns have been kind of so white-knuckled, wondering what we're going to have to do in January with budget, and we hate to have to cut programs, but it looks like we've got a little buffer, and it's doing really well. So that's mainly what my focus will be, and I really appreciate the chamber keeping businesses going, and the revenue for the state has been pretty stable. And so I'm going to try to look up what the blueprint tax structure proposals are, because we do know that Nebraska has struggled with our especially neighboring states on income tax rates and property tax rates. So thanks for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Brian.
Senator, thank you. And you know, we very much appreciate, we're a very fortunate state. And one of the reasons that we're doing so well is both the Appropriations Committee and the legislature, as well as the governor, have really done a good job over the last several years in tough economic times, sometimes from a revenue standpoint. And we're very fortunate. So thank you very much. From District 24, I would like to introduce Senator Mark Kolderman. District 24 is Polk, Seward, and York counties. Senator Kolderman, we worked with very closely last year on both the tax incentives legislation, but also the UNMC legislation, ultimately LB 1107. He understands economic development really well. And Senator, I was in Seward 2 weeks ago, and there's lots going on in downtown Seward. So you're having an effect at home as well as in Lincoln, from everything I can tell. Senator Kolderman, if we can get you unmuted and get you on, you can have the floor. There we go. You're on, Senator.
Thank you, Brian. It's been a pleasure to work with the chamber, both the state and my local chamber and the Lincoln Chamber, Omaha Chamber, especially on 7. I have nothing but admiration for the people that I've worked with, and I appreciate all the effort that was put into that bill. You're correct about Seward. Actually, my whole district is growing and prospering. Seward and York and Polk counties all have a tremendous track record of growing their counties. Seward has been blessed in the last couple of years because we now have a new company called PetSource, which opened up, and we have an industrial park we're just adding our second business to the industrial park. PetSource, of course, is a subsidiary of Schooler. They invested $50 million in our community plus and created 100 new jobs. And it's freeze-dried pet food products. And it's going to be a wonderful addition to our community. They're a family-owned corporation. They just do a wonderful job. And then, of course, we have a company in Seward called Hughes Brothers, which is going to be celebrating their 100th year in business. And that's being operated by a third generation of Hugheses. And they just do wonderful things for our state as well as for our community. I look forward to working in the legislature another 2 years. I hope to be chair of retirement again. We've got some big challenges with several of our plans in the state of Nebraska. Work closely with Lincoln and Omaha on their plans, and hopefully we can get some of that turned around in the last couple of years. And of course, I've been pro-business. I've always promoted the chambers of commerce and the issues that they brought to us. And I think I have a pretty good voting record with all of you, and look forward to the next 2 years and can't wait to get back and see who my new colleagues will be.
So Senator, thank you for being here today. What I'll always say about the senator is the legislature can be rough and tumble sometimes, surprisingly so. More than any other senator, even in the worst of it, you always have a smile on your face. I'm not quite sure how that happens, but you seem to enjoy the legislative process more than most. So
I do. I appreciate that. I like to look at the glass 3/4 full instead of half empty.
Well, Senator, thank you for that. And it shows in everything you do. We appreciate it. So now let me turn to District 26. Joining us from District 26 this morning, which is here in Lincoln, is Senator Matt Hansen. Senator Hansen chairs the Business and Labor Committee and also serves on Government, Military, and Veteran Affairs and Urban Affairs. Senator Hansen, in his role as chair of the Business and Labor Committee, gets to interact with the chamber all the time. And I'm sure he misses us prior to the next legislative session. So, Senator, it's great to have you here this morning. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody for joining us here and for inviting me on. No, I very much appreciate the working with the chamber. Fitting that I go after Senator Coulterman. I very much appreciate him working with me as well. I know we had many conversations about 720 and ultimately what rolled into 1107, and appreciate the ability to work and offer my perspective on that one as well. As well as work with the chamber. One of the things I wanted to highlight was I know we worked on LB 1160, which was the statewide data system for workforce outcomes. That was something a lot of groups, including Blueprint Nebraska, the Economic Development Task Force, the legislature touched upon in terms of how do we modernize and make sure we have efficient systems in our state. And that's a partnership between the Department of Labor sharing workforce data with our K through 12 and our university and community college systems. And I think that's really going to have a great opportunity to provide us as policymakers and business groups, and as well as universities and colleges and K through 12, an opportunity to figure out, how do we adjust and how do we move forward with the changing needs in our economy, and make sure we get, especially, students on the right job track. Kind of looking forward, I hope to serve again as chair of Business and Labor. Looking forward to that in the next session. Part of what we're doing is obviously looking at the impact of the pandemic. You mentioned kind of the disparate impact it has on different industries and different business groups. We're kind of seeing that in different groups of workforce. Some of the early things we're hearing and seeing is that, for example, more women have left the workforce and are returning to the workforce slower, which is something we're going to have to look into in terms of what's the best support or what are the best options we can do to kind of address that issue as quickly as we can. Personally, on other platforms, I really appreciated you mentioning housing and childcare, some of the priorities of the chamber. Those are some things that I've worked on in the past and am planning on working on again this next session. So with that, I always appreciate this event every year, and I appreciate everybody being innovative and joining us online this time. So thank you.
Well, Senator Hansen, thank you for joining us and thanks for your service. Hopefully next year we'll do this live.
Absolutely.
That will be great. So we have one more senator, I believe, who's on the phone at this point. Senator Myron Dorn from District 30, representing Gage and Southern Lancaster County. Senator Dorn is a farmer and serves on the Appropriations Committee. Senator, hopefully you're still there. If we can get you queued up and just unmuted, and we will be ready to go.
Am I on now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Senator, you're on and we can hear you.
Here, let me start the video too, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for having us all, even though it is by Zoom. That's something that I think many people have commented about, that start of the year, we didn't know what Zoom was. I think it was at a conference where Bill Moose talked about it, and he thought it was a cereal, breakfast cereal that we all got to enjoy. He's found out a lot of differences all the rest of us have. We are thankful we could have this and take part in this. I want to thank all the other panelists, Jim Smith with Blueprint and Dr. Illick with Southeast Community College. Wanted to comment more about, I see some very positive things going on in our states through this pandemic. Yes, we do have some really challenges, but we're one of the states I think that have been economically least impacted by this pandemic, and there's a lot of various reasons for that. I appreciate some of your comments about the sales tax and the online sales tax and how that has played a part in all of this. I do sit on appropriations, so I appreciate Senator Clemens' comments about through the first 3 months, the revenue is above forecast. I think that's a really positive thing for our state, that we still are continuing the trend that we had earlier. And as we go forward and as the unknowns about the COVID continue to work through them, I like the fact that we are showing positive signs. Like a lot of the comments, especially Dr. Illick had on keeping the workforce here, keeping our youth here, what Blueprint's looking at on some of their things as far as property taxes and keeping the young people here and their vision. I think it's critically important that we as a state, that we have put something together like that there's a group of people that have planned that and planned for the future, so that we all together have goals out there that we can work towards to improve our state and make us the best possible state we are. Excited that people can work more remotely and that they're looking at coming to Nebraska and living here. I keep looking at Lincoln and my Geist. The housing market in Lincoln is just as strong as it ever was. Those are some real positive signs. They also present a lot of challenges, and as we work through those the next few years, I am thankful this year myself not having to. I listened to all the candidates, and I think most of them have that November 3rd date circled, and
they do.
To that point, and that this election cycle will be over. I want to thank every one of them for running. Also, all the candidates that new candidates that are running. That is a tremendous undertaking. I know I've talked to several of them, and the amount of time they're putting in the last few weeks, the last few months. And my gosh, with everything else, our short time between our special session and our new session, and then you have a election in the middle of this. There is a lot of challenges and a lot of time, and I really thank them. Thank you, Brian, and thank everybody for having this and letting me be a part of it.
Well, Senator Dort, thank you for everything you do, and thanks for being with us.